Like a big reason why we're struggling right now is because our communication is really off compared to like how we were in NA. And like the stuff that we do and the way we play, like it's a really big factor, because if like timing's off even by a little bit, like it's just gonna mess you up. And unfortunately, we're paying the price of it by now having to make a lower bracket run.
The main difference between other teams is we have a good friendship, and this comes like we have a lot of trust in each other.
Just don't know what they mean.
Nismo first blood. Rubkoida drops. More opportunities though. Nismo's gonna toss him right at his feet.
Oh boy.
Oh, the blast tech is so good. Holy smokes. A little bit of reload action as well. Trying to stay in the action, and Nismo's gonna get 3.
It's not enough, really. Xander goes in just for a bit of a shock when the aftershock comes in, but Askia, a bit of...
How long will he be allowed to stay here? Xander playing topside ropes. Oh, well to play from Nismo. Gets not just 1, but 2. Oh, so good from Nismo, who gets 3. And then finally the follow-up comes out. I mean, honestly, Nismo just needed to get 1.
Oh, gets yet another one. Things are being chipped away here for M80. It's working. The nade doesn't come out, but instead the grab roll comes out early. Rafa holds on to it at a good time. And now the Union, they start to mow over M80. And Brazil are the ones on top over North America.
And for the first time,
I think for sure we're the type of team that thrives when we lose. When we lose, we just come back stronger. So I think just us losing makes us stronger, and we're just gonna come in again with full confidence.
Much like the men and women in that commercial, it was M80 who was doing a little bit of a boogie on stage as they ushered themselves off after an impressive victory over the Union.
Did that look like dancing? Because that looked like, ooh.
It looked like it was something. It was something. You know, gamers don't really dance that well, so I guess you could argue that that was what dancing was. True. We don't got the moves like that, you know. We move in game, not out of game. But M80, they come out swinging. This is a huge victory for them, fans. This is kind of what we wanted to see in their opening series, going back to the group stage. We wanted to see them start off strong. They're definitely in the heads of the Union. There's no way they aren't.
Which is why I love it when you're looking at the map series, because you know, we kind of floated through that very quickly before the series even started. But that second map and that third map, we're about to witness Fracture and potentially Pearl as a third map. So again, going back to that same storyline that that M80 wants to put out a statement against this team, and to finish that first map the way that they did, you're definitely in the minds of your opponents on the second map or your map pick.
I also think it's really important for us to like re-emphasize the fact that Fracture is literally the Union's map. Like that's their map, right? They're undefeated on it. There's only 2 teams that have come close to beating them since the beginning of this event, and even prior, it was 00 Nation and the Guard, who went into like triple OT or something wild like that, right? Like those are the only teams that got even close to even double digits, right? Everyone else has been single digits against them on this map. They play it well. Yes, it's an old meta comp, but the way they play, the roles on it, their flair, it's so unique and it's really, really efficient.
And it just doesn't feel like it is a great map for M80. It's sort of just mediocre. It doesn't really play to their strengths. This is something that we were talking about when we watched them play previously, Roy. Just the map in the way it's designed, being a quadrant map or a 4 corners map, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't allow the M80 side to really have the same level of approach to their defense. It's maybe a little bit trickier for them to do what they like to do, which is get a little bit more aggressive and find early openings, because that advantage doesn't always parlay into round advantage. And a lot of times we saw the Union reading really well on their attacking side and catching that defensive aggression that we see from teams like M80 who try to push-pull on their maps. So as a result, M80 would go for maybe a backside play, knowing that the opponent in the Union was pushing up B main, and there'd be someone in spawn waiting for them, and it would result in a double kill, and all of a sudden the round spun on its head, and M80's wondering how they can get out of that. I think that M80, Roy, has to be careful not to let that happen again.
Yeah, no, I think the 4 quadrant point that you made is really valid, honestly. Because like on Haven, for example, or on Ascent, those are maps that, you know, the M80's been super good on, but those are maps where they can fast flood through smokes, kind of rotate quickly, get to where they need to as efficiently as possible. But on this map specifically, the push and pull on the attack side is much more awkward for the defenders, and that's sort of where the Union should be sort of taking their advantages and kind of just messing around with M80, making them impatient, making them make mistakes, and capitalize now when it's time to converge on the bomb sites.
And they've done that as well. When Pank was playing this Cypher and this head-to-head against M80 the last time on Fracture, was not the typical like Cypher setting up trips and the cameras, trying to see if there's going to be aggression that M80 likes to do or any team likes to do on Fracture. And then you try to like group up and go for like 4-1 split. Yes, he waits towards a spawn from time to time to cut rotations, but there's been times too where the Union themselves and Pank have made it towards the defender spawn right in the middle, getting some great flanks against M80, who once again felt like they were playing, or they were learning how to play that map for the first time when they played against the Union. So hopefully there's going to be some lessons learned on how this was played last time. And this is the reverse psychology once again. We've always mentioned how now when 9Z was playing against M80, lots of tape on this team to learn how to play against M80 on Haven. Now this is the same story against the Union. You have a lot of tape on this team, but also at the same time you were able to witness it and taste it in the group stages where, quote unquote, it didn't really matter for these players and for this team because you still made it towards the playoffs. And now that it matters and you've had a chance to experience it, you're going to definitely be coming out with something a lot better in terms of, cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah, I love it. This is, I mean, that's to summarize eventually translation, copium take. Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right? Like that's generally what it is. Like, oh, you know, we were nervous on stage. Oh, you know, we were this. Like, at the end of the day, you have to win this map if you want a 2-0, if you want to make a statement going into the Garden, who's waiting for you in the grand finals, right? Like, there has to be some sort of statement happening right here. And this is a chance to prove it, right? Like, were you nervous? Were you out of your element? Have you adjusted, right? If you come in strong, you clean sweep this map against the Union, you've proven yourself like, okay, we can compete against the best on their best map, and now we're here to game. See you in the grand finals.
Yeah.
I think you're accurate on that. One of the things we're going to need to see, though, and this is maybe something we've already drilled home as an early point, M80 can't afford to play this one with the rough utility we saw in the first matchup. They need to be more fine-tuned. That was definitely something that was a problem for them in their opening series. They did end up playing this map again in the group stage. Later on, it was against Fusion, where they 13-7'd.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember correctly, fans were watching that game, it definitely felt like they had gotten those jitters out. Smokes were on point, mollies were where they needed to be. They weren't really making the same level of mistakes. One could anticipate that they're going to do the same thing here, but I think a big part of this game is going to be them just getting off to a great start, because it's just going to be a reminder of what happened in map 1.
Yeah, and maybe the overcooking is an overstatement, as I mentioned before, right? Because they played the Sova against the Union in the group stages. When they actually had a great victory on Fracture right after, I think that was against 9Z, right? And they went back to the Fate. So now it's just ironing out those little kinks of, okay, perfecting it a little bit more and getting your correct timings to be able to maybe come back with that same composition once again against the Union, or basically learn, hey, we played a Sova against this team. Did it really work out? Because when you're actually looking at the side of the Union, usually they're not playing like the normal comp, as like we like to say, right? There's like no phase raid. There's no raise in the composition with the Brimstone or whatnot. It's a double Sentinel with a Cypher and a Sage, where you're just looking at this on paper, it should be a little bit more slow usually, just because of literally slow or some Sage, but you also have to be a lot more coordinated on your hits. Some things that, the Union loves to do on the attack when they're hitting with the Sage is trying to wall up in the heaven of Sands in the A site. So that means they have protocols to work around Sands and itself. And if you don't have, for example, the double Prowlers, you could maybe double shock you, but breaking that timing could actually break you in your line of defense as well for M80. So maybe going back to that Fade adds that little extra delay with that extra Prowler to be able to help the rest of the team react in the A-site hits that you might see here coming out from the Union.
Think about the pressure on the Union as well. If M80 gets off to a good start, which is what we've seen from them in their games thus far. I mean, maybe the exception map 1 in their opener. it started out a little bit worse, but even still, they basically took over the game at that point and just completely dominated after a timeout. And Hempy gave some words of wisdom, whatever was said. Obviously, it worked. They won 11 straight rounds to close out the game 13-4. But the Union, they're in a position where it's obviously must win. It's elimination, and it's second map. They're down 1-0. If this starts out a little bit rocky for them, if M80 comes out and gets like 4 rounds straight, that is difficult to reset from. You're looking at the last game where it was basically just round after round after round going the way of M80. When you look at it, the first half was 10-2. They won the pistol and they won round 11. That is a 10-round gap between round wins in the first half. Then they came out and won pistol in the ensuing 2 rounds afterwards and then lost out the game. That's hard. That's really difficult to try to swallow that pill and be like, okay, map 2, here we come. If it starts the same way, man, that's brutal.
Yeah, and I mean, they've won both pistols, but they lost that second round there on a force buy from M80. So the Union have to be ready for that type of play as well, especially if M80 are able to get a plant going into those rounds, or at least into these trap plays that they like to have. So keeping that in mind for the Union, converting from your second gun round against the Eco to bring up that hopefully confidence that, for me, looks like it was shattered a bit from that first map. Then you might stand a better chance. But again, it's still their best map. I still feel that you could turn the page over the first map and just focus on this one here.
And on a more like a psychological level as well, I think if you're the kind of the disadvantage of playing in the home field, right, is the crowd. Like, you need to get that crowd on your side as soon as possible. Like, as soon as that second map starts, there needs to be like some sort of like fire happening for the Union. Fire up the crowd, get everybody hype again, feel that energy, ride the wave, right? So like, if it's a poor start for the Union, it could like just kind of crumble on top of their shoulders. But on the other side of that hand, this is where dreams are made, baby. Like, you're gonna prove yourself, you're gonna rise to the occasion. Like, this is it. This is where you surrender to the fears, this is where you surrender to the pressure, and you just be in the moment, play the game, have some fun, play some Valorant, baby.
Flow state. Get out of your own head and just vibe. As we take a look at the agent select coming in here, again, not really anything that's gonna surprise us too much at this point in the event. This is maybe a little bit more of what we should expect, but hold on, there is a change.
Yeah.
We do have a Cypher coming in, and we have a KO, which I can't remember if they ran the KO in the past. I'm pretty sure they ran.
Had to be a Ghost before too. Like,
this was before their Sova comp.
Yeah, exactly. So EU also a breach coming out there too. The knife is going to counter that Cypher a lot as well. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
This is interesting. A little bit of a change-up coming in from M80 at the tail end of the tournament. It's a risky play, and we'll see if it pays off. They're currently up 1-0 over the Union. Our casters are standing by to see how M80 does in this second map, or if Union's going to force us to map 3. Dryad, Tanner, it's all yours.
One map the lead are the North American representatives, but the back half of this series, Dryad, screams the Union. It screams Brazil, and they get to do it, if they do it, in reverse sweep fashion in their hometown.
That is so much. That means so much for the Union, for each one of the players here, for the staff as well that has made it so far in the tournament, guaranteeing that top 3, but trying to make it top 2, trying to make it to those grand finals tomorrow. But for the Union, there's gonna be 2 maps in a row needed for it, though I couldn't think of a better stage for this to happen than this one, then Fracture. The one where we started seeing the Union early into Ascension, and we talked about how good they were. We talked about the ideas, the creativity, the flanks, and we get to see more of it now.
And look at the idea from both teams. Oh, Pink just gets randomly spammed as he's running through. Xander sends out a shot and gets an early bit of damage. Meanwhile, I mean, they flipped the map completely in half, and this A site was open for business. This wall will cut off any chance of a quick retake through the site, but it's fast through A main. A dash forward will keep Koala alive. Back and forth we go as Pank gets the better end of the trade. Beautiful flashes, not only from the breach, but from Nismo as well, and M80 have found their way back. A player lead, make it 2 as Rafa looks to hang on. He's got a backstab of his own, long range with the classic, and it just falls short. The yin and yang around the map, and it all falls in favor of M80.
The pistol that goes the way of M80 with a quick retake for this one as the spike gets defused. It secures a little bit more of something that M80 was lacking, right? That first time that we got to see these two teams face each other all the way back in the group stage, where M80, all they could get was 7 rounds against the Union. In a 2-0 fashion, the Union was able to close it out, and it was thanks to this map and the next one that we're gonna see. It gets even more aggressive the more that we get to see.
Yeah. And this right here, you could see the Union players feeling or looking relatively defeated as they sat back down on their chairs. And, and that is something that M80 are looking to take advantage of. This is a play that we saw previously. They tried it with the Sova, but they moved before the utility. Now they go back to a comfortable composition. The flash timing is perfect. Koala is right behind it, and there was no way for the Union to try and steal away this second round. It's Rafa and Pank.
Last player standing.
They'll play the wraparound here. Pank has been dealt with.
Just leaving Raph at the last one here. With the composition change that the desk talked about, right? Not having the Sova that we've seen. Originally, we saw all the way in Tier 1 from Evil Geniuses, and a couple teams trying to kind of grab that idea and make it their own. An attempt that was given by M80 with this composition, with the Sova not really working out the first time they played against the Union. So they go back to comfort. They go back to a little bit more of what we were used to seeing in North America. You guys see how successful it is. I think M80, though, they have a lot going on for them. We talked about the Union and how good they are on Fracture. But M80, and this can play to either your advantage or your disadvantage, right? When you play that series right before. But it seems like for M80, they are fired up right now.
Yeah, there is no fall off, at least this far. One map in, 2 rounds in. Again, we see that timing right over the top. So much util tossed out this way. This is a play that will need to be respected as the game goes on. But the last time these two teams met, it's a play that the Union had no problems handling. Now, obviously, anti-eco round, so you can't really preach too heavily on M80 and what a beautiful round that was. But for M80 fans, it's nice to see that that set play is seemingly in effect, or will be in effect. Pank does it again. Best Koala Noob. Pank is diffing Koala Noob. From map 1 to map 2, it keeps happening.
Yeah, no matter what agent is being played, what map it is, it's looking pretty good right now for Pank. He was good for that, as he was the only player in the south part of the map. That 4-1 that was being played, that wall goes up and the spike gets planted.
When Pank about to lay an egg on top of somebody's head here. Xander just at his feet. He hasn't spotted him just yet. Now he does. Rafa deals with him. And Pank's position should still be unknown. Good knife reveals a few players inside main. This shouldn't be news to M80 that the attack is playing this way. Flash on the backside. Askia deals with John. And M80 just don't have a way into this one. A Guardian and a Judge. 5 players to deal with. No time to do it. The Union will look to retreat.
The more rounds that happen, the more curious I am to see if this entry to site by the Union gets disrupted by M80. Because it does get a lot more difficult, right? When you have a Sage to deal with, that's gonna make that post plan so much stronger for this attack. Have a potential flank. Some really good positions that we've been able to catch from Pank every single time that they get to play this Fracture. So, a couple things to take into account that might be the indication to put a little bit faster for M80 on this defensive side, as Nismo, since that last round, having that null command to work with, waiting for a chance and waiting for aggression actually here.
Rafa gonna try and sneak away. Takes a bit of damage, forced to use the heal on himself, but he does make it out safely. Cam gonna be taken down. Pank gonna try and find his way onto the side. The A side has been the final destination for the Union. They've been enjoying this one. Xander finds a kill on Askia. Man, make it 2 with John Cutie. Also dancing the dance atop the side. It's 2-2 for John and Xander. And Rafa, who took some early damage, noted at the beginning of this one. Gonna be left with an alt orb. 1 kill to his name, a resurrection available, but it won't make it into play until next round.
Yeah, there it is. Fighting right on site for M80, and they're able to secure that round. Just because of a really good positioning. Very early on, and all these rounds are crucial for M80. As the desk talked about, it's an M80 that if they win this map, and they win this match like this one, like this on Fracture, they've accomplished everything that they wanted right before the grand finals. A map that they struggled with so much before in that group stage, was never really maybe the strongest one, especially compared to the Brazilian squad. And so they do so, they adapt, and they show what they got.
Man, I mean,
Down A.
Just like what we saw on Lotus, the only problem there for the Union is there was just more of a response. Both teams looking to pressure the same part of the map. They trade the same bit of utility, but there is no way out because of that orbital strike. That one ultimate proves to be too much for the Union to handle, and this round ends in way of Zenny flawless. M80 up 4-1.
The util being the difference maker into the round, especially towards Dish. Everybody trying to stay alive and not being able to do so. Getting taken down and pinched from Arcade.
Hey, the mind games, they keep playing them. They keep playing. I think that was Koala saying, Rafa, look at me. Rafa's IGL for the squad, and Koala thinks that he's got him read like
wow,
a book. As Askia puts himself out there, unfortunately, all alone means he walks away with nothing.
M80 with no fear right now, playing.
Cage triggered.
Again, fired up and ready for this matchup. Getting for a couple more rounds as there's an eco coming through for the Union. Rafa actually good for 2 with the Sheriff.
And Panka snuck onto the side here. Good backstab. This could be the round that the Union get back into it. Finally, Resurrection comes through. A couple weapon upgrades to have. A wall that will stop this retake in a 2v4. M80 now find themselves in an awkward spot, in a losable spot.
Rafa getting 2. They're massive. Allows for that res to become available. Go for it. And turn into a 2v4. Also retake with Colin, who having an operator. Just not the greatest to deal with. Getting a little too carried away.
Fragment.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Panko will reassume this position. Shots will eventually be reeled in. Now Koala was forced to play Overwatch with just the operator, now forced to play save as he walks away. And the Union, I mean, they start to light it up here. They start to send out a few sparks this time. I believe it's in way of thrifty fashion.
Making sure that things get slowed down as we get to see that eBay thrifty coming through for the Union, securing that second round as well. Again, with Rafa being the difference maker, getting 2 picks early into the site.
One enemy remaining.
And the retake with the operator gets so much more difficult.
Yeah, Koala Noob quiet now.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if they're planning on slowing down at all.
Party's on.
Askia surely does not plan to slow down, but is forced to by the operator of Koala Noob. Last pack again, just beating the team a little bit. No util on that angle. Pank will deal with the cam.
And it is the classic for M80. Koala Noob getting the first pick. He backs up. They have the numbers to work with. They can play a little bit more patient as the spike makes all the way to this B side. One that we haven't seen just yet. You wonder if there's a chance to do so. The Trap Warriors are always so dangerous. Some damage taken too by this attacking squad.
I think they're trying to buy out the Rolling Thunder and tap on the spike, but EU's not going to give this one up. NTK goes into the back lines, will erase John Cutie. Now the operator gonna find a backstab. Knives online. Look at the util tossed out this way. Ult for ult as Koala goes up top. Speaking of up top, on his wall is Rafa, the last one standing, and Koala Noob will deal with him. 4 kills for the Jets, and M80 back in the win column in explosive fashion.
Absolutely feeling it once again for M80. Koala Noob specifically, as we know, like always, getting all that support. Both in the team, outside, the family supporting in the chat. We always see it. And it's great.
One enemy remaining.
It does add up to all these plays that we get to see from the Jet. And the first series against Nueva Zeta, it was usually just Koala Noob standing up, yelling a little bit, feeling himself for sure, but now it just seems like it's everybody from M80.
Everybody's getting a little excited. I'm worried about their voices. If you make it through to tomorrow, are you gonna have the voice to talk trash across the stage? They are going in on this one. I do want to go back to that round, and because you talked about it, right? In M80 fashion, they put Koala on one angle, and then as soon as Koala finds some value, they're able to relieve him of his position. Hey, you go watch elsewhere, right? Let's keep this op moving around the board. So that is going to be something that should be mentioned maybe in this timeout, right? How do we find... You can't peek anything dry. You shouldn't peek anything dry ever, although these players are good. But now that Koala has an op in his hand, if you're peeking any angle dry, I mean, you are really risking losing a body early in the round.
Something that is interesting too, right, is we talked about the domination for the Union on this map, but there are not many teams that got the chance to play against them on Fracture again, to have that rematch happen, because that's kind of the story for a lot of teams that played in Brazil against them. It was, we could have done this differently, so matches get close. And now it's an M80 that gets the chance to do so, and they know what the mistakes were last time around.
Ooh, Koala Noob in a bad spot. Rolling Thunder comes through. He dashes, he cloud bursts, he jumps, he leaps, but eventually he dies. The showstopper comes through, doesn't find too much. Clears things out. Nismo steals the body back. No command online. Now all the utils shut off here. Suppressed are the Union members, but they flash their way on through. They'll deal with the robots. Now have 2 more to worry about. A healthy 2 as they get run down. Xander, 1 with the molly, 1 with the rifle. It is chaos, but it's M80 on top again.
Run down, the perfect way to describe that round.
I need this.
But the fast response once again coming through for M80. Like I was saying, right? A lot of teams, they never really got to rematch it. A lot of the key parts, the key win conditions that the Union has always had on this map depend on the uniqueness of its composition and the style that they like to bring. So we think about the Sage. We think about the Sage that we don't see very often, but there's only so many walls that you can bring, right? There's only so many things, and because of the amount of times that the Union have played this map, just in Ascension alone, there's a lot of info out there. There's a lot of reads out there too. Koala Noob, once again, opening pick coming through. Once again, Pank down.
I mean,
right there.
25% chance, right? There's 4 angles this op could be holding to start the round, and Koala has found the right angle every time. Askia. Ah, man, there's just no breathing room. It doesn't seem like the Union can do anything right. They get on the sites, they take fights, they don't have the weapons, the stinger shots, they don't quite land. Xander somehow lives with 1 HP to find the kill on Askia, and that one ends Zenny flawless.
Yeah. The rounds also get faster and faster, it feels like. Where there's an opening pick coming through for Koala Noob. Then the hit comes through for the Union, and the read is already there for M80. Everybody's there, and everybody is making sure that this attacking side stands no chance. Orbital strike here, a chance to make the players a little bit uncomfortable into this one too. And a Union now going across, going to the north part of this map. Being a lot slower.
This guy all the way up main, alone with the operator. Hasn't been given the fight just yet.
Yeah, had to back up just a little.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely backing away. There is a backstab around the corner. The Union playing the opposite side, like you mentioned, coming from the north. Oh, beautiful kill there. I mean, none of them have been going the way of the Union, but finally Rafa flips the script. Nismo survives with 55 HP, and I can't imagine it's gonna be for much longer. Beautiful stun, the orbital strike behind it. Down to 30 HP is Zaskia, but there's still players ahead. Make it one. The odds get even, and Don Cutie hops his way back into the kill feed. Nismo 2 of his own, and a round that looked so good for the Union immediately gets flipped on its head.
Especially as Xander goes down, you think that is the chance for the Union. Xander getting caught, very uncomfortable position right on site. Just trying to use our orbital strike, and yet he's a 1v3 once again. Pank, the last one alive. Gonna get caught by EU most likely. Yeah, the shorty is gonna be enough. 8 rounds for M80.
And M80 say, bring in the funny gun. All right, guys, bring in the funny gun. The shorty makes an appearance. And there's just nothing Pank can do. That spike was down so far behind enemy lines. This right here hurts the most. That Nismo was allowed to survive with 55 health and get 2 kills after it. He saving his voice.
There's a need to for a lot of these rounds yet, you know. Is an M80 that loves to do so. Looking pretty good in this first half, already securing 8 rounds, potentially looking to get more. The economy here is uncomfortable for the Union. And they know where they are. The reads every single round have just been insane by M80.
Yeah, this has been an interesting spot though. Pank's spot inside drop, I don't think it's been completely noted because of that one round that he was able to sneak through, and Rafa does it again. One hero rifle. Now Pank drops onto the site, they immediately flood. And the A site belongs to the Union. They have to hang on to it.
Careful, breaking the wall. Gets one.
And things get awkward. 2 players try to push through the door in Sands, and they've been dealt with. Okay, the Union have done it. Last round. This is what last round was supposed to look like for them. But they do it 1 round later. Pank will hang on to the operator. M80 gonna work their way across the map. Hang on to their weapons. I think most importantly, much like what we saw Koala Noob do on Lotus, right? Askia is still sitting on a Sheriff. It doesn't matter. M80 can buy into the next round. Doesn't matter if they die here, but they want to make sure that they're not allowing the economy to start to build on the Union, right?
No.
Don't give over any more weapons. Just hang on to what you've got. So it will eventually be that thrifty, that eBay thrifty victory for the Union.
Round in the half.
And I would imagine after that round, the M80 side, pretty quiet, not a whole lot of chirping going on.
It was an interesting position too for Koala Noob. Just on site, trying to take the fight, but with nowhere to run. He even dash away back to safety, doesn't get the pick, ends up getting taken down, and that's the operator that ends up now belonging to Rafa on this Sage. Res gonna be available, orbital strike as well for the Union as they try to secure the last round of the half, trying to make it a 4-8 for the Brazilian side. With 4-1 set up to the operator playing all by themselves.
The crowd. The Union chants, the thunder sticks.
Yeah.
The A site though, again, M80 just have the right call on the strong side. Oh, but the wrong call for John Cutie. It's the play right here on site. Incendiary comes down as well, but Xander's assumed his position, reassumed as the stuns come through. Askia just a second thought here. Rafa drops down, finds a kill with the operator. Wall goes up and again split from this A site for the remainder of the defenders here for M80. Can they find a way back in?
In a 3v5, a couple players slow. Koala Noob actually managing to find Rafa with the operator. And yeah, this is doable.
And Fragment at the feet. This is going to force the hand of Askia. Forced to push on through as that wall now has a hole in it. Incendiary will come down. Qual goes over the top, but he's ripped out of the sky. 2 remain. In a 2v3, NTK going to be disconnected from the fight. He's too low HP. Running out of time, though. RM80, a beautiful stun. Goo has fallen. Nismo now going to try his hand, but it's EU instead. And it sounds like there should be time on the clock. 8-4 was available to the Union, but in the retake, M80 stripped those sights away. 9-3 is where we land as we swap.
Switching sides.
A 9-3 here, a massive lead. It might not be what we saw on that map number 1. Might not be that 10-2, but with this one, you're more than happy. If you're an M80 fan, if you're on this side of this North American squad, trying to see M80 and the guard face in the grand finals of Ascension. As they're only a couple of rounds away from making that happen. You're on Fracture, the home of the Union. And yet a team that seems a little bit slower today, honestly. Talking about a key piece that was always Askia. Looking for any chance to come back alive. 1 in 10 so far. It's just brutal for anybody. Especially when the stakes are this high. Trying to make it to the grand finals of Ascension. Trying to win that spot for VCT Americas next year. So the Union with a tall task here, but it's still doable. We've seen what these guys are capable of.
And not out of it just yet. The stage wall proves to be a tricky piece of utility to deal with. It cuts off one side of the map. Gives information that M80 want to hit this way because they've dealt with it. Speaking of being dealt with, Rafa, just not long for this world. It was the only util that he's found here in this round. John Cutie plants his feet and fights for the B site like it's his own. Now it's all up to Goo. A smoke comes down. 3 players to worry about. Cannot find the first, and M80 keep moving forward.
Without double digits on the map number 2, 3 rounds on the other side. And looking at the economy, doesn't seem like it's gonna be a force. As we see, usually a lot of teams do in a situation like this one, when at this point is basically backs against the wall. What?
No franchising for you, says Qualanoob. No franchising for anybody. It's the partner program.
Oh, you're right.
No franchising for anybody.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody is a little robbed of that. A very modest second round, obviously coming from the Union. Harder to find ways to force on the defense after losing that first pistol round, and one of the many classics has been taken care of. I mean, 3 rounds away are M80 for righting their wrongs in the most dominant fashion.
Yeah.
The fight back comes through, but it's just a glimpse of hope. This could quite possibly mean an all NA grand final. M80 are just around the corner from that.
Just 3 rounds away, maybe 2.5. With the way that this one could go, the Ravian still standing a chance here, going for an attempt with a couple players low. 22 HP per Qualanoob, 5 for John Cutie, but the one with the lowest HP is the one who gets the kill. And yeah, that is 11 rounds for M80. As he said, potentially at the horizon, the NA or Ascension. Guaranteeing there's going to be 6 North American teams in VCT Americas next year. 3 Brazilian, 2 LATAM. It's the way that things would shape up. If M80 is able to close this one out, and it just seems like it is a matter of time. 2 rounds away.
Cage triggered.
Got full buy though for the Union. They finally get to play their defensive side with
Smokes down.
good weaponry. I mean, this angle for Goo, that is such a good angle for him. Usually gets so much value there, but smoked off, finds nothing early. M80 working behind their util very well as the flashes come through. 2 of them used to try and deal with Pank. That's a 2-for-1 trade. Make it 3-for-1 as Quality goes into the back lines. He's been erased though. Askia finally finds his way into the fight, and Rafa, who's been so good for this Union squad, will scoop up another. John Cutie's been noted, which means EU is all alone here on this B site, and that spike is just out of reach. It's a stinger in the hands of the Breach. It's a backstab just about available.
EU has so much info here.
And I mean, the tug of war, the back and forth, splitting them. As Askia, 46 HP, a Sheriff for Johnny, close it out last round, tries to do it here. Pancho forces his hand, and John will get it done.
No way John does it. Right at the end, it was all the info too. EU was hearing the steps from Askia, have the info, goes for the util too, and that allows a little bit of a pinch coming through to guarantee the round for M80. And we've seen every version for M80 so far throughout Ascension. The weaker one, the strongest one, but this is just the final boss right now.
And they continue to enjoy themselves, John. A 1v1 that maybe seemed anything but winnable, especially against Askia. Maybe something came unplugged with all the jumping around that the M80 guys are doing on their side. We jump into a technical pause here. It's a scary spot to be, right? You force up whatever you can for the rest of the time here for the Union. And it's been so hard to breathe for those guys.
There's no space, there's nothing where we haven't seen a single round where the Union feels comfortable. Not a single one, and that is just the work that goes behind the scenes for M80. Having the read on this map, it doesn't matter how many maps of Fracture the Union has gone undefeated, has gone on that streak. There's always something to punish, there's always an answer, and M80, they seem to have found it mainly on that first half, but for the second half, one round away for M80 to make it to those grand finals. The Guard, in the meantime, watching this. And I think for the Guard too, they're waiting for this, they're waiting comfortably. And I saw a couple of tweets between the two teams, the two North American teams saying, hey, we'll wait for you at the grand finals. And that just might be what's gonna happen.
M80, I feel the Union have, throughout this event, the many times they've been able to play Fracture, they've been conditioned, I think, to think that the Sage utility is going to be enough. There's so many times where, starting on the defense for this team, Rafa is able to just go put down a Sage wall, a barrier orb, and teams respect that. They back away. They don't look to break it. They don't make their presence known. We saw it, I believe, when they were playing Fusion, and Fusion were winning some of their rounds where they were able to avoid Rafa. But the difference here with M80 is they don't care what utilities put in front of them, right? They're going to disrespect that Sage wall. And if you only have Rafa behind it, he's been good. But to expect him to 1v3 on, you know, 1/4 of the map, and that's just the tallest of tasks. Nobody could do that.
Yeah. A lot of things to think of, to take care of as the Union look for ways to handle that pressure of this M80 squad taking the lead into their map, playing in front of the Brazilian crowd. So many things that are not easy at all. Especially when it comes to getting a comeback going on like this one. So many rounds in a row. So many perfect rounds, perfect picks that you're going to need. But an economy that we got to see not really even in the favor of the Union after that last round for M80.
Yeah, the economy stinks. Well, so the round that we just saw was the full buy for the Union.
Yeah.
And, I mean, as many of you gamers know, round 4 after you full buy and lose, it doesn't feel great. Could be Bulldogs, Spectres, Light Shields.
Not great at all. Maybe even less than that for a couple of these players.
We've got a couple more minutes as we work through this tech pause, trying to fix our bit of gear. Man, I just can't help but think that this really is not the Union that we have seen. Even on the attacking side, something that we wanted to mention, and I don't think we ever got there, but then we never got there because we never saw it, right, is activating the lurks and how good Pank is on this map in activating lurks.
Yeah. There was no chance. There was really no chance. In how many rounds did we see Pank actually getting shot down very, very early into the round? And M80 just had such a good read into this. Something that, you know, the coaches, the staff, the players themselves, they were able to point out from what led them to that loss in the group stage against the Union. And how they turned that into win conditions that we've seen round after round for them. But yeah, you're totally right. This is not the Union that we saw. This is the Union that right now feels like it's just having an off day for kind of the individual performances and how the plays and the plans that they have specifically end up being executed. It's also a lot of pressure, right? We think about how young so many of these players are. I mean, think about Askia, the pressure that this guy has. Being so young, being the one that everybody has eyes on. Everybody talks about Askia. Everybody talks about this duelist, about how he's gonna be the future that you might be seeing at the tier 1 level. Even if it's not through the Union. But yeah, for anybody, especially as they start to get that LAN experience in front of an audience, that it's something that you have to deal with. Learn to deal with that pressure.
Yeah, I guess we talked about the pressure that that M80 would be feeling with this audience right there in front of them. But I mean, the pressure is all the same for the Union. The pressure to perform in their hometown with this home field advantage.
Yeah.
And now we jump back into the action. A bit longer of a technical break here as the wall once more will cut off one part of the map. And look at the change. They place that wall down and they just avoid it like it's the plague. Rafa hops to the other side and they're hoping that this wall will be enough. No, M80 just gonna disrespect it, look to work through it.
Something that we've seen before as well for the Union, this wall, and everybody kind of backing up, not really having that much support, even expecting that pressure to come through this early. And that could be the opening for the maybe last round of M80.
Yeah, Pank gets taken down through the smoke as well. Koala just spraying into Canteen. Will find the frag. Bit of response here is John Cootie. Under fire, Rafa switches targets, finds a kill onto Nismo. Askia behind the paint shells will push his way onto the site. Incendiary's down. It'll force off the defuse. Aftershock behind it. All the utils starting to be dumped here, but that means nothing to continue to delay the clock as Askia pushes through. He goes 1 for 1. As the Union look to hang on. A tap onto the spike once more. Koala good for 3. EU looks to close it out, and he'll do just that in 2-0 fashion. M80 explode here on Fracture, and they give us an all-North American Grand Finals.
Guard against M80 for tomorrow, for those Grand Finals. The one that the NA fans dreamed of, and it is what is gonna happen for Ascension. A guaranteed spot for North America into VCT Americas next year is gonna be either Guard or M80, but an M80 with an insane performance today. We talked about the first map, we talked about the Lotus that we didn't really get to see ever on Ascension for this side of the Union, and now then we talked about a Fracture that had to be the Unions, and it just wasn't. The read was so good for M80. The confidence was through the roof. It could not get any better for this squad.
No, it could not. And you see, obviously, the fans here still cheering for the Union as they will make an exit. 3 of our first place teams are down here in the lower bracket. Only 1 makes it out, and that 1 is M80. Obviously heartbreaking, you know, to have a bad day and for today be that day.
Yeah.
I also think we got a glimpse of what it looks like when You know, when the Union looked as good as they did, they were playing in their comfort zone. For the first 3 or 4 series, they got to play Pearl and Fracture every single series.
Yes.
It hasn't been until the game against the Guard where Ascent put it into the mix. And then this one here, Lotus comes in early, that we actually saw the Union get tested. We saw them out of their comfort zone. Against the Guard, they were able to settle in a little bit. Obviously, that one goes 3. Again, it's unfortunate. Against M80, they couldn't find that comfort zone again after Lotus.
There's a lot of things as well to talk about for the Union, but the one thing I want to mention is these guys, this Brazilian squad, they made it to the top 3. They made it so far, even after having a roster change in the middle of the season, barely having any experience with Atsia, and then going with him to Ascension, making it all the way through, not having Havoc, who was the old duelist for the squad. That was a lot to take care of, and they handled it to perfection until the pressure just was too much. And M80 that had the perfect read into these maps and was able to move forward at the end. But a Union that absolutely put the work, and they only make it to the top 3. They're not able to make it to VCT Americas next year, but really leaves us with a taste of what the Brazilian Tier 2 is looking like, and it's looking great.
It is looking great from series to series. M80 ride the wave into the grand finals. We're going to send it back to Bach and the boys to break it all down.
Own this manga and flash it.
All right, well, that is an incredible series from M80. The Union, they just never got a foot in the door. And if they did, M80 promptly slammed it on their foot and then slammed it over and over and over again until the bones were broken. 13-3 in map 2, 13-5 in map 1, 8 collective rounds for the Union across a 2-map series that ended almost faster than it began. I felt like we spent more time in a tactical timeout and a technical timeout combination there in map 2 than we did even in the game, as M80 just picked up the pace and they just never gave Union a chance to even get in the game.
Dude, I didn't know that it said in the Riot rule set for North American Ascension that the second map elimination game had to be played on Team Deathmatch. Because we are not playing any type of Valorant here for M80 on defense, of all things too. They were running it down, confident, ulting everything just to get everybody into trap plays, and there was just no way for Union to set up for anything at all. Mark, you mentioned that yes, it's a different comp here and there. I was there with you. I was like, oh crap, John Cutie, he never played a Cypher before, and I'm like, okay, let me just nerd it out, and he just let the cam in sight and just ran with everybody else. And it just traded perfectly.
Look at the differential too, Vans, the delta. You've got EU at 11-4, which is kind of a weird scoreline given the fact that the game is over. Usually you'd expect that to be like a couple rounds into the game, someone's got the hot hand. That's the bottom fragger. The top performer is Koala Noob at 16-8. That's what, +/-5? That's an incredible spread. Their first bloods were ridiculous. 11-5. First blood to first blood ratio between the two teams. That's just not what you want to see. And you know, the Union, Roy, they're playing in front of a home crowd, but it's clear that M80, they just had them, and there was just no way the Union was getting into that game.
Yeah, I mean, since we're just throwing statistics out as well, I might as well add my own in here, right? The first half was 9-3, right? 2 of those 3 rounds for the Union were actually thrifties, and that's not to put the Union down. It's just to show how dominant M80 was playing throughout that series. Like, they were disrupting, they were breaking almost every law of Valorant, going aggressive on anti-ecos, just fighting solo, playing like it's. And just to show you guys real quick, I've been reading the script, of course, and like,
me too. I've got my copy here.
Right there. There's just a 2-0 right there. It is what it is. Riot, you're too predictable now. We need to switch something up here.
Here's the thing. Since day 1, when Challengers started, there were 2 teams who would not escape the conversation of who is going to win Ascension. M80 and the Guard. It was always those 2 teams that were discussed. And maybe it's just being a boastful and proud North American Valorant fan, but that's how I felt the whole season. And then we came into this event. We see the Union come in with a good start. Even 0-0 Nation looked good at times. And I'm like, okay, Brazil's still got some heat left in it. There's still plenty of talent left. But when it came to the playoff bracket, NA stepped up. And in the end, we get the conclusion we all have been hoping for. We've got M80 versus the Guard in our final matchup, Vans.
Yeah. And just to add a little bit more and give some props as well to the LatAm teams as we're looking at this bracket, because look at Fusion. They were also the weakest team going into this tournament, and I thought they were just gonna just not get any series at all and just bomb out. But they got a nice upset series against 00 Nation. 9Z made it very, very competitive against M80 just today on that second map. So I gotta say, the competition was still kind of fierce, quite fierce actually, in this Ascension for Americas. But at the same time, yes, I do agree with you, Mark. It came down to that. The guard, M80, probably the top two. Maybe some stonks coming in for Union after that first upset win against M80 in the group stages. But everything now finally just falls back into place.
What a run from both teams. The guard only dropping a single map. A single map, Roy. They lost one map throughout this entire event. And even though M80 did falter against the guard in the past, these two teams have a dynamic history. There is a lot of back and forth going back to the challenger splits, going back to midseason face-off and playoffs. These teams have history against one another. So to get them here in this final match, playing for VCT, the one thing both teams have had their eyes on since day one, you couldn't have written it better. I guess Riot did a great job with the script yet again.
They're flawless when it comes to the script, Bach, let me tell you. But no, I think you're absolutely right. I think results aside, like taking away, putting a blindfold to the bracket, I do think that the guard and M80 is actually the hardest matchup for each other, just simply because of how familiar they are to each other's game, how many times they've played, just how incredibly powerful and strong every player on each of these rosters is. Even like the support staff, like the coaches, the assistant coaches, even like they're extremely well versed in the book of Valorant as well. It's literally words cannot hype this grand finals enough, to be honest.
Vans, I mean, we're watching these teams play, and even though it is the Union who ultimately does end up falling a little bit short, you got to give them credit for getting this far. It's just unfortunate because everyone knows the scenario that plays out in their heads. Oh my God, we have to do this again next year.
I do agree, and it's been a very similar storyline to when Valorant first came out as well in 2020, when it's like game landers, the team to beat from Brazil, the unstoppable force going into the VCT circuits, and then suddenly you get the experience at the big stage, and it wakes you up and you understand the different types of play style that are coming out too. And then you come back in full force right after, though. And then look at Loud today, for example. So I definitely do think that you walk away from this and step away from this event, your head's really high and proud of what you've accomplished throughout this Challenger season. It's gruesome for sure, because now you have like a 6-month period and things are up in the air here and there, but at the same time you still have to look back and be proud of what you've accomplished.
And there are many teams who didn't even get this far. So ultimately, you still did something that few did. 6 teams made it from all of the regions, and you were one of the final 3. And even though you're not in the position you want to be in, still not something to be disappointed in. But we do have the post-match interview ready, so I will say goodbye to you guys for now as we welcome in a member of M80 who had a dynamic performance today. Specifically looking at the attacking side in that previous match, we're looking at EU as well. Congratulations, a huge win for you guys today on stage.
Thank you so much.
I gotta ask, a lot of talking on stage today. There is obviously a lot of conversation going back and forth during that match in the second matchup. It felt like you guys wanted to win, obviously, for VCT, but maybe there was a little bit more on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I said it after every interview. These guys talked to us after they beat us in groups. They talked after the match. I said it after every interview. I'm looking to play Union. We played 9Z, we played Fusion, we played Guard. Every interview I was saying I was looking to play Union. These guys talked after they won. You don't talk after you win. You can talk mid-game. After you win, you don't talk. So yeah, of course we talked back after.
Did it feel good to just basically get that level of closure to be like, okay, that was what we should have done in the opener. We came out and we accomplished our goal.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we were going to win. Going into the match, we knew we were going to win. A week ago, we knew we were going to win against the Union. We just needed one more match. We were getting used to the seeding on the group stage. We needed one more match against the Union, and we knew we were going to talk. We're going to play to our heart's content, and we're going to beat them. They literally got to watch our match. We had to play 2 BO3s in one day. They had to watch our match, and they still lose.
All right, so let's take a step back. Looking at your first series, you guys play on stage. It's the first time you've played in an environment like that. Was it difficult to get readjusted again because you had to get acclimated to a LAN environment in the studio? Was it different playing in a stage environment in front of a crowd?
It's not the stage, it's not the crowd. The game's the same game. No one gets nervous on stage or on a crowd or anything like this. It was just the first game that we had against the Union. The white noise makes it so you can't hear any footsteps, so we still have to get used to all that stuff, which was basically what I was saying we were getting acclimated to.
And obviously, this environment didn't really seem to affect you guys. Did you actually feel like maybe you fed off of it a little bit? Because maybe not so much in the opening series, but in the second series, you're playing against a local team. They're clearly going to cheer for the Brazilian team. Did it feel like you fed off being the bad guys?
Oh yeah, even in the first game, they were all cheering for 9Z. When we walked out on the stage, it was woo for 9Z and then boo for M80. It doesn't matter. It makes us play better, bro. Keep booing us. We're the villains. It's fine. I understand.
So do you feel like now that you're going to play against the Guard, a team you've played against quite a bit, another team from North America, do you think you're going to be the ones that get booed again and Guard's going to get cheered for? Or do you think it's going to be double boos going across the stage?
No hate to the Brazilian fans. I love everybody here, but I know that they're going to boo us because we beat their team. It makes sense. I don't hate anybody from Brazil. I just wanted to talk to the Union. It's fine.
All right, well, congratulations again. We'll go ahead and let you guys get prepared for your matchup against the Guard. Everything on the line. You guys are fighting for that VCT chance that you've been fighting for since day one of this roster's inception. Congratulations yet again.
Thank you so much, man.
Oh, man. They were really looking to talk some trash against the Union, and honestly, I'm here for it. Look, I've said it a million times before. I love the rough and tumble nature of Tier 2. Sometimes Tier 1 or like the pro scene and some esports scenes, it gets a little bit too sanitized. You lose that emotion. I love the fact that these guys are shouting across both sides. It was not only just them. Every team has been vocal on this stage, yelling at each other, but you got to give him credit for one thing he said. Leave it in the game. The second the game's over, it's done. And Roy, as a competitor yourself, you got to respect that.
No, you absolutely have to. I mean, it's at the end of the day, this is an entertainment sport. Like, however you want to put it, it is entertaining. This kind of behavior, this kind of tension among players is great as long as it is within reason and within the server. After that, shake hands. Have a great day. Best of luck. Do your thing. All good. But congratulations. Like, you said it pretty well. I think he perfectly captured it. Honestly,
I just love it as well that EU is probably the most Canadian trash talker that we've had interviews here, like the smack talk, but sounding way too polite at the same time. It's just like so happy that they got this victory the way that they did, and I could just tell that when he's walking away from that interview and celebrating with his team, they are loud as hell.
Well, that means we've got 1 day left. It feels like just yesterday the season began, going back to February of this year when NA Challengers kicked off, and we've seen so many storylines that has developed throughout the year. We've seen teams enter in from qualifiers who ended up being significant threats in the North American region, getting signed to orgs, finding new opportunities. But at the end of the day, what we all thought we'd get before we even saw any team play, M80 versus the Guard grand final. Something we've seen, I feel like, a million times over. And I am very excited to see how these teams match in this type of environment. Because, Vans, we talked about it. The Guard has been on fire this event. But if M80 comes in with the heat they had today, that's going to be a banger.
Yeah, but you can't forget that the Guard also brought the heat to every single one of their games as well. Yes, they've lost one map to the Union, but the other two maps were the Guard all over the place. And this is no new territory for the Guard and M80. This is like, what, the 4th, 5th time they're going to face against each other. And on top of that, the Guard have 2 map bans advantage and the first map pick. So when you're looking at a team that has such a deep map pool for the Guard that Josh RT and the rest of the team have been very confident about as well, it's not looking too great for M80 as the upset in this storyline or the underdog in this storyline against the Guard in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 5th time that these teams have faced each other since the beginning of Challengers, by the way. So they're definitely not strangers to each other. But I think the stakes now, I think the psychology of the game has completely changed, right? Like, this is it. Like, this is the final straw, right? This is do or die for both of these teams. Everything that they've done, obviously, there's no such thing as long-term failures, but everything that they've done in the past year has led up to this moment. Are they going to rise to this occasion? Is this where champions are made, or are they going to crumble?
And let's not forget, like Van said, double ban for the Guard means that M80 is going to have to show a map we've never seen them play. They're probably going to have to play Bind. And if Guard is smart, that's going to be the first map in the series. So we're going to finally see whatever's been hiding under that cover, and hopefully it's worthwhile. If it's like a 13-1, I'm going to be a little disappointed. Obviously, assuming it's in favor of the Guard, just because we've been wanting to get our eyes on what they're going to do on Bind. But that is going to have to wait until tomorrow. We close things out for the day and we get prepped for a grand final that has been written in the script since the very day Challengers was conceived. It's the Guard versus M80. NA is going to take the spot for VCT. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, check it out. Want to know if the price of those Wave Runners is too good to be true? Or if I Wear My Kicks 49 is truly selling dead stocks? Or if that Jordan 1 Royal Box is original? eBay checks. See that little blue check mark? Behind it is a team of independent authenticators who check. And we mean everything. Every tongue, check. Every toe box, check. Every corner of every box, check, 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 check. Every logo, every label, every lace loop. Yeah, it's checked. The luster of the leather, the topography on the tags, to the straightness of the stitching on the sole. Everything you can see, and even some things you can't.
Really?
Then they tag them, log them in the system, box them up, and ship them out with no cost for the buyer or seller. eBay checks, so the moment you open that box is as real gets.